Well, hello. Welcome back to Truth Fairy Tidbits. I am your Truth Fairy, and I am here to give you tidbits of information that you otherwise might not look at on your own if you are still of the programmed mindset of statism and among some other programming that we will get into eventually. So, really quick, if this is the first video that you're seeing, this is not going to make a lot of sense because I've been progressively going through information. So I really suggest you start at the beginning of my videos. They're not very long. I know everybody's attention span is about 30 seconds these days, but if you really want to understand what I'm doing and for any of this information that I'm about to read to you to make sense, go back and start at the beginning of my videos. Get caught up and then continue on. And of course, my dog isn't here to bother me. I got one on my lap and one staring at me. Okay, bye. So what I'm doing here, is attempting to relay some information that I came across several years ago in help to program the status mindset. Okay, because when you try to give somebody a chunk of information that goes against their belief system, they're likely not going to look at it. So I'm just trying to feed it to you in small bites in hopes that something starts to make sense. Now, why does that matter? We went through our first book, No Treason, on the second book now, Most Dangerous Belief or Superstition. Why does this matter? Because you can say, okay, well, whatever, yeah, government it's illegitimate and immoral, but here we are. This is what we have. Nothing we can do about it. So why does this matter? Why would it matter to deprogram from your belief that government is necessary or that it's the only possibility? The reason that it's important to try to wake up enough people is because what's coming, if the status quo continues on and people don't wake up to the fact that they've been lied to and programmed their whole life, what is coming is not good. Okay, and this, I'll just give you the little bit that we'll get into eventually, that this will help to make what I'm going to get into not conspiracy theory, because it's not. What is coming is not good, and everybody has been very comfortable with this little American dream for a very long time, and that's by design. Everybody is lazy, complacent. As long as you got your Netflix and your 2 days off during the week to try to play video games and distract your brain, it's all very comfortable right now. So why would anybody care to worry about what's coming? You should be worried about what's coming, because it's not going to be comfortable and cozy and video games and beer on the weekends for very much longer, unless something happens like people waking up to the fact of what's coming. Okay, that's why I'm doing this, and that's why it's important, and that's why you should care. And the reason that I'm starting from the basis of government itself is illegitimate and should not exist and doesn't need to exist is to help get you, hopefully, to the point of understanding what, from right now, your perspective is conspiracy theories. Please shut up. Bro. Go away. Anyways, just a little trying to explain why this is important, and watching these videos and just hearing that, you know, consent is not a thing, the government shouldn't exist, blah, blah, blah. Why should any of that matter? It matters because what's coming down the pipe, and you should care. So I can't just jump right into everything that's coming down the pipe, because again, it's going to be considered insane and conspiracy theory, even though the people that are pushing it flat out are telling you that it's coming, and people are still like, meh, government will handle it, we'll just vote harder, that would never happen here, that stuff happens in China, like all of that kind of, again, programmed mantra that you spew out because you have cognitive dissonance and what's the other term? Normalcy bias, those kinds of things of everything has always just been okay. And like, yeah, sometimes there's afraid of this or that, you know, but then everything just kind of sort of works out and whatever. I go do my job and I come home and sit on the couch. It's all going to be fine. No big deal. I'm here to tell you it's not going to be fine for very much longer. It is rapidly approaching a very, very not going to be fine situation. So that's all I'm trying to do is if enough people are aware and can see it coming, there's less of a chance of it actually happening because the people pushing it are relying on the fact that you're programmed and that you're not going to see it coming or you're not going to believe that that's what's happening. All of us that are saying these things are conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hats and all of that. That's what they're hoping, so that by the time you realize what's happened, it's too late. We're in the digital prison and we're fucked. Okay? Seems to be that point already. Everybody seems perfectly happy to walk themselves into their digital prison, and as long as they get their video games and Netflix and shit. But anyway, so that's the hope is, you know, everybody's, well, what can we do about it? This is what you can do. You can see what's coming so that you can be prepared to resist it. That's all that needs to happen, is enough people seeing what's coming and saying, no, we're not doing that. Like, literally, that's all that needs to happen, is people seeing it. Stop being scared. Fucking hair attacking me. Fuck's sake. Stop being afraid of everything. When you know what's coming and you can see it happening, you're less afraid and then you're less controllable, because that's all they need is constant fear mongering for you to bow down to whatever they say you need to do so that you feel safe and warm and fuzzy again. So literally that's all that needs to happen. And that's all I'm trying to do, is just start at the basis and give you little bits to try to get you to see the bigger picture that's coming down the pipe, so you can go, hold on, wait a minute. No, we ain't fucking doing that. Stop. That's it. That's all that needs to happen. So, and now I've rambled for 8 minutes. So I'm going to read just another really short part of the book, because we're still talking about implied consent of the governed and that kind of shit. So just one more quick paragraph, and then that'll be enough. Apparently this was just a rant day. All right, here we go. The belief that politicians own everything is demonstrated even more dramatically in the concept of immigration laws. The idea that a human being needs permission from politicians to set foot anywhere in an entire country, the notion that it can be a crime for someone to step across an invisible line from one authoritarian jurisdiction into another, implies that the entire country is the property of that ruling class. If a citizen is not allowed to hire an illegal alien, is not allowed to trade with him, is not even allowed to invite an illegal into his own home, then that individual citizen owns nothing and the politicians own everything. Not only is the theory of implied consent logically flawed, but it also obviously does not describe reality. Any government that had the consent of its subjects would not need to have law enforcers. Enforcement happens only if someone does not consent to something. Anyone with their eyes open can see that government on a regular basis does things to a lot of people against their will. To be aware of the myriad of tax collectors, beat cops, inspectors and regulators, border guards, narcotics agents, prosecutors, judges, soldiers, and all the other mercenaries of the state, and to still claim that government does what it does with the consent of the governed is utterly ridiculous. Each individual, if he is at all honest with himself, knows that those in power do not care whether he consents to abide by their laws. The politician's orders will be carried out by brute force if necessary, with or without any individual's consent. Okay, so we covered consent. The point making here about immigration. To say that an illegal, so whatever, you have a friend who's Mexican, we'll just say that because that's what everybody considers illegals in this country because it's the closest one. You have a Mexican friend who lives in Mexico and you want to invite him to your house. You can't do that because he's illegal. Stepping over an imaginary line onto a piece of dirt is illegal. So to make that claim, you're saying that the politicians group of rich guys in suits in Washington, they literally own everything within their imaginary boundary. The politicians own the dirt, your yard, your house, your business. They own it because they're the ones that get to say who you interact with, who you allow onto your property. It's not your property then. Does that make any sense? And the reason people get upset about illegals is they're coming here and using our resources and taking from our government. So in that scenario, the problem is government. They create a situation where they give away our stolen shit, our earnings. They give it away to people who come here from that don't live here, which creates an incentive for people who don't live here to want to come here. If that didn't happen and everybody was free to just interact and walk from here to there and do a job or walk from here to there across some imaginary line and hang out with somebody if you wanted to, that whole situation goes away. Okay, and then you have the people that chant, without a border, you can't be a country. Okay, again, it's an imaginary line that a group of ruling class people dictated is now a country. You can't have border protection, can't have a country without this imaginary line being defended. How do we have states then? States have borders, yet I'm free to walk from this state across an imaginary line to the next state and interact with them if I want to. You see how stupid all of it is? Anyway, and I've gotten into a long enough ramble, I think. The main point of today, I just wanted to get out the reasons for doing this and why it matters, and you should care. And if you know people who are still super status-minded and haven't considered any of this, then share these videos with somebody. Tell them to start from the beginning. Yeah. And now I've lost my train of thought, so I guess that's it for today. Yeah, do not comply. Bye.